experience some form of ultimate disaster? Will we have worldwide floods, major earthquakes? Perhaps an unexpected collision with planetary debris will trigger the ultimate catastrophe.
These things happen. They've happened in the past. We could expect them to happen again. And it may be that the timing is that we're going to see an event such as this.
Is it possible that a cataclysmic event could occur that would affect the entire human race? Could this ultimate disaster happen in our lifetime? Of catastrophic events occurring on a limited regional basis, not worldwide. Yet the yearly toll of destruction by earth, air, fire, and water is immense. Earthquakes have been on the increase around the globe since 1976. In that year alone, more than 800,000 people lost their lives, and millions of dollars worth of property was destroyed. In one day in 1974, tornadoes killed or injured 6,300 people and left $600 million worth of damage in 13 states. Serious volcanic eruptions have occurred in 4 regions of our planet so far this past year. 200 square miles of the Pacific Northwest were devastated by the eruption of Mount St. Helens in 1980. Nearly 300 people were caught by a tidal wave at Hilo, Hawaii in 1960. Property damage amounted to more than $40 million. In 1979, 200 people were killed by a giant wave in Indonesia. Are these disasters merely a prelude to larger events that may occur? Experts were asked if an ultimate disaster could be a part of our future. Some find this a very real possibility. Archaeologist, geologist Jeffrey Goodman, author of We Are the Earthquake Generation.
What is coming up for the future? This has always been a theme. The Bible has talked about it. It seems that in the close of every millennium, people are particularly concerned. At the end of, when 1000 AD was coming up, people were concerned that that was going to be the end of the world. And since then, I think Western society is particularly sprinkled with ideas about there's going to be a big event. It may be that as we're moving towards an ice age, which a lot of climatologists believe we are, that the amount of ice and snow cover in the North Pole area will get so great, and also in the South Pole, that it will contribute to the instability of the Earth. And we know that large earthquakes do move the Earth on its axis, and it may be a combination of forces of the instability from the ice and snow cover, the striking of a meteor, large quakes causing jostling, a number of factors coming together to produce what I think is, or has been referred to as the ultimate event, and that's the Earth actually turning over in space, turning on its hinges.
The Stell Group is a new community established in the farmlands south of Chicago under the leadership of Richard Kenninger. One of their concerns is how to deal with the catastrophe they feel may occur at the turn of the century. Physicist Tim Wilhelm, Stell's vice president, describes the 3 factors they feel could cause the ultimate disaster.
The south polar ice mass would begin increasing in size and weight, and would do so in an off-center fashion. In other words, it would not all be equally balanced around the axis, rotational axis of the Earth, but it would be offset. And just like putting balancing weights on a tire, if your tire on your car is out of balance, it tends to make it jump and bounce. And this supposedly would have the same effect. This off-center mass of ice would cause what's called the Earth's processional wobble. The Earth precesses as it rotates. It also wobbles slightly. And with this heavy weight on one side, it would cause that to exaggerate slightly. That exaggerated wobble would put a stress force on the crust of the Earth.
The second factor is the cooling in the core of the Earth.
As with all physical matter, as it cools, it shrinks. Now, the plastic underlayment, the mantle of the Earth, being more fluid-like or plastic-like, can shrink at a continual rate. But the crust of the Earth is rigid and cannot readily conform to this shrinking mantle. And what happens is as the underlayment is shrinking away, you get sort of a buckling of the crust, which along fault lines there are instabilities. And to equalize, the crust will shift, and that is what an earthquake is.
Fault lines form a web covering every area of the Earth. The third factor,
The predicted planetary alignment, which is to occur on or near the date May 5 of the year 2000. Now, this planetary alignment will not be a super straight line of all the planets through space. There will be several of the farther out planets off at about 90 degrees, but most of what are termed the visible planets will be in a fairly straight line shot through the heavens. Now, it's been calculated many times over that when all the planets line up, the gravitational distortion that's created, the added gravitational pull, is not necessarily strong enough to have any major effect. But there have been studies done which show that the sun and the moon lining up alone can cause the Earth's crust to heave by more than a foot up and down, and it creates literal tides in the crust of the Earth. So gravitation does have some effect. So with the instability caused by this added wobble due to the ice mass being off-center and growing, plus the instability of the crustal arches being somewhat buckled due to the cooling and shrinking of the Earth, you add this final hair trigger at the right point in time, and that would trigger a chain of geological, geophysical events which could be termed a cataclysm.